Guys, welcome. Sunday market breakdown. So we have the DXY. DXY is looking pretty nice, to be honest. So there has been this very impulsive move down. If we go onto the weekly, we've had this 1, 2, 3. We didn't quite meet the higher time frame mass psychology override section. Not very much than most necessary point to hit, but we did tap into this inflection point and then sell back in. The interesting thing about it is I see it two ways. We could either create this left shoulder, head, right shoulder, which could take a few, well, maybe about 2, 3, 4 weeks to develop before we actually get another big sell off, or we could just continue with momentum. It does give it a bit of a running channel feel to it anyway, so I think we could just sell off and just continue selling off and then not come back for this. That's also very much possible. So that's two sort of scenarios, but with the DXY selling off, it makes a lot of sense for a lot of the other US pairs, which I'll go through in a minute. So that basically covers the DXY. And yeah, there isn't really much to kind of go off by because it's been so impulsive. It's very clear that we are in this sort of impulse. This was a correction, and now this is just continuation. So I think if this is going to just plummet, it's now to next on my watch list. We have USD CAD. Now, USD CAD is something that I think is really prime for two scenarios. I've only put this forecast on here just for demonstration purposes, but it's more so we've basically on the higher time frame, you can see how we've basically just kind of, and I'll just remove this quickly. We've tapped into like these sort of inflection points, nothing of major interest, but we've had a strong push down, decline in price. Now, this obviously does play off the bat of the DXY as well. With the DXY selling off, it makes sense for other US related pairs to be selling off too. But in no means does this mean that this is just going to sell all the way down here. No, of course not. It just means that we're now in room to create something to actually create more continuation to the upside because we are ultimately impulse correction, large correction, continuation, and now steeper correction to continuation is where I believe to get to this high. So what I'm kind of looking at is, are we getting this steep sort of pull down? Now, if we look at it here and we go to the daily, what we can actually see is that, and this is very normal, is price has tapped into the trend and evolved ever so slightly. So this is the sort of trend line that I'm looking at over here and there. So if I take this in, it's somewhat parallel now to this trend line at the top. So this 1, 2, 3 isn't very necessary in my opinion. What we could see is us actually come down into this section here to complete this 1, 2, 3, and then the really nice buy is going to be down here. So placing ourselves strategically in the market is definitely of interest with the US dollar CAD. Now, is this possible? Absolutely. This is absolutely possible. And then it just kind of looks a bit more messy, but we'll still be coming down to some point. But then we can actually just go back up here and then we can actually push up further. So it could turn around very quickly. So just definitely have to stay sharp with this. But there's two ways I'm looking at this. I'm currently already short in a position over here. I can't see on my object tree, but I got into a position over here. It was very strategic from my behalf. Perhaps not your traditional entry, but it was just from kind of what I was already pre-forecasting. So basically what happened was I saw it as a cheaper price for or better entry, let's say, where we had the NFP unemployment rates and it caused volatility in the market. Price spiked up and then it started to stagger, which was completely normal because what we usually tend to see is price volatility in a very volatile way spikes up and it comes straight back down. Unfortunately, we didn't get that straight push back down, which was what I was looking for, but it's okay. So as price came back down, the entry was made in here as this candle closed. And yeah, so this is basically the entry here. I think it's a little bit more actually. It's quite a large stop, so 45 pips. Probably not your traditional size entry for most, but it definitely gives me enough room to manage. 3 to 1 to this low, and then if we do continue, let's say with this trend, I'm still in for a pretty decent sized position with the potential of more scale. So, there's definitely a lot of interest in this particular chart. Of course, I could have squeezed in a lot tighter for stop loss, but Given the scenario, I think I was just kind of happy to take it as it came. Now, what I'm currently seeing, and I'm going to stay on the higher time frame, is we've had this 1, 2, 3 confirmation of this trend. So this is very much possible at this point. We have an unconfirmed bottom, however. With the unconfirmed bottom, I'm not too sure if this is going to come back down here to go back up here. Hence the reason why I've pre-forecasted this just for the visuals, because we can see that prices reacted to these points. It's very much possible that this could be a 1, 2, 3. That's all it is. There's an inflection point up here where we could M star all the way up here and then tap back down, create a flag and go, and then we could be in for the sell again. That's basically it. And then if we're in for that sell again, I'd probably be looking at next points down here somewhere. Probably this override point here. Only reason being is, like I said, we're forecasting the larger trend, but that trend would be somewhat invalidated at that point. Only reason being is the angle would be way off now. It would be kind of like that. So we'd be looking at something more kind of like a descending, expanding pattern, which isn't the sort of traditional pattern that I look for. So that's basically that for this particular pair. However, USD CAD is looking very nice. I think as I mentioned with the DXY just now, if the DXY just continues to pursue and sell off and get to this point over here, for example, which is very much possible because the higher time frame is aligned with this position, then we could potentially see the USD CAD do the same, and then USD CAD comes to this point, and then perhaps maybe the DXY finds this as a floor, and then starts to bounce back. So we might then see a turnaround amongst a lot of pairs, retesting the back end of this. There's a few variations of what we could potentially be seeing. However, at the moment, it's still very premature. We are in a downtrend, so the trend is your friend at this point. We just need to kind of trade what we see and what we understand. And what I understand is we have the 1, 2, 3, have the override where it could potentially bounce back from here. We have the unconfirmed bottom, so this actually holds no weight at all at this moment in time. We have an inflection point here which meets with the unconfirmed bottom, which could potentially create a parallel channel, which makes this a little bit more higher probability. And then we have the inflection point just above it, which could form as the M star. That's basically all I'm seeing on the USD CAD at the moment. So that's USD CAD. The next one I'm looking at is Aussie CAD. Now, I would say Aussie CAD is actually quite interesting because we have all this corrective movement here, and there's a lot of inflection points along the way, and there's no way to really determine if there's going to be a turning point. However, what we can see on this final sort of trend up, we have this sort of corrective 1, 2, 3. So we have a 1, 2, 3, and we have a clear middle section in there as well, which is nice. However, it's not my traditional ascending channel that I look for, especially so large. However, we trade what we see, and at the moment this is what we're seeing. We're seeing a 1, 2, 3 leading up to this structure. We're seeing price slowing down. Momentum is now seeing, like, perhaps maybe the big fish is now coming into the market and looking to get short. Could we see one more spike up? Absolutely. We have a lot of news coming up for both Australia and Canada next week, so during next week it could be extremely volatile for this pair. Is it one that I would definitely want to get priced in the market? Absolutely, because what we could tend to see, and if we're looking at the forecast in previous, it's definitely looking like it's in favorable for um, Australia at the moment. So Australia is looking quite positive for next week, and Canada is looking quite weak. So it could actually become quite a bullish week. So we might actually just kind of correct down here, could push up. It could work both ways. I don't really trade the news and kind of worry about what the forecasts and stuff is unless it's major, like we have things like COVID, and unemployment rates are insane. But more so, what I'm actually more interested in to see is where the market is placed before the volatility is going to enter the market, and that's what's going to enable me to get a better position. So obviously we have this inflection point up here, which I'm going to be curious about in case we do start pushing up quite aggressively. Then perhaps maybe there might be an opportunity to get involved on the aggressive push up, or we could just wait for it to tap into this inflection point and see what happens. But going off the bat off the weekly, we can see that it's very much aggressive on the way up now. So there isn't really any signs of momentum slowing like we see here. It's just kind of aggressive, 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 and we're aggressively moving to the upwards direction. So the other thing is this one large correction here for the upside move, right? That's something that I'm just kind of curious about. So this could form as a middle section for this longer move here, and then we could essentially see, you know, uh, price just create something, something a little bit more of angled, and then, you know, we see something like that. And then that lines up with, you know, this, just the potential. We could get that corrective large leg up. So something that, just bearing in mind that there's definitely potential for this to go up. So I wouldn't be fixated on the short. Apologies, I'd be fixated on just being very neutral and just understanding that we are in a strong bullish trend. However, bearing in mind that we're in a strong bullish trend, a lot can change. You know, we can just start to decline and sell off, fill the 90% rule before we even start going up again. There's nowhere to say that we have to move up now, especially if we are going to move up, you know, to that point. It doesn't matter if it's aggressive or if it's neutral, because we will be in the impulsive phase. So moving into that impulsive phase, we can actually come down here and then impulse and then start this very strong impulsive move. And we might see some massive movement on Aussie related pairs. I mean, I was looking at the Aussie 200 and as Aussie 2000, and it was quite interesting actually what I came across, because right now looking at it, it's actually in a quite good inflection point. So if this particular pair is going to react over here, we could see like a small push up, tap into something, and then just sell off. But it's very aggressive as well. You know, we could be moving in the same direction as we just saw with the particular pair. It was, you know, we're in this to potentially move up higher. Don't know how high, but obviously we're definitely in line for that. So something to bear in mind. So yeah, for Aussie CAD, that's basically it. It's not one that I'm majorly fixated on, but it's one that I've definitely got my eyes on, because, you know, we are tapping into these inflection points now, and I think this is where, if we're going to get a strong pullback, this could be the sort of area. And then if we get a pullback aggressively, we might come down 90% rule. So, and GBP USD. Now this pair is solid. Okay, so like Aussie CAD, we are in that aggressive bullish move. So it's not likely to just see strong bullish moves across all pairs. You know, I mean, especially with yen pairs, we've seen them decline. US pairs, we've seen them decline, but GBP, we're seeing it appreciate quite a lot. Very strong bullish momentum that we've seen over the past few weeks, which I think is really nice. One thing that I do like about GBP USD is that we've approached this in a very corrective but structured finish. So if we get to the 4 hour, we actually look how price is moving now. It can be very corrective because we are very early in the run. So this can be so corrective over here, and then we might just spike and keep on going up. It doesn't really set the bar to say that, you know, we're going to sell off now. I'm not looking for a short all the way down here. It's possible, but it's not probable. I think what I'm kind of looking at is we've approached this sort of inflection point now with a 1, 2, 3. We've tapped in. We did have a little sell off, but it didn't commit. I think it didn't commit because we're going to M star to maybe this point, or we're actually going to just kind of persist and then kind of go up to this point before we create something a little bit larger. Something a little bit larger, I think, is required because we haven't created any sort of depth of floor yet in any sense on a higher time frame. We've created quite a lot, though, a lot of opportunity. We had opportunity in here. This is the sort of pattern I'm seeing right now up here as well. So we have that 1, 2 kind of just shoots off and kind of just corrects and goes. So that's basically what I'm potentially seeing here to go up further. And yeah, patterns tend to repeat themselves. So this will be an interesting one to see. But however, I will stay very sharp, because we might get a push up, push back down, and then on the lower time frame, it could paint the picture off a head and shoulders. Shoulder doesn't have to be there. It could be a little bit higher, could be a little bit lower, but hopefully it does kind of bypass this, and then we create something a little bit larger to then create something a little bit, you know, proportionate for a push. But I think I'd probably be looking to get out of the market probably at one of these inflection points, just depending on how price is. But obviously this is an ascending channel leading into an inflection point, not a major point, but just this point here. So it's a point to just be very, very cautious about. But we've had all this declining price and this sudden push up, we could still decline. There's nowhere to say that, you know, this is the end of the bear run. It just we can see that clearly on the higher time frame that we've gone very bullish. So, you know, strategically placing yourself in this area is prime, honestly, very, very much prime, because you're gonna literally place yourself in the market here for the longer term picture, which eventually price will be up here somewhere, and you'll be thinking, wow, I was looking at it down here. So, um, same situation down there. You know, we've only tapped into these areas once in a while, and I think I did my annual forecast at the end of like 2 years ago, and I was tapping into these areas. I said, you know, when you get in here, these are the areas you want to enter in, because these are the ones you can hold in for a long time, honestly. And it's odd for price to come up here and just drop all the way back down again. You know, it doesn't really happen so much. We tend to see that now, and especially how nice it is. We form something a lot more brilliant. So by the time we actually come back here, we're probably going to be all the way back up here somewhere. So that's something of major interest to kind of keep aware that, you know, price could go from here to here. I don't even want to calculate what sort of percentage you could get, but you know, let's just say that you tapped in with 10 pip stop loss, 11 pip stop loss, you know, um, yeah, you know, that no way. That's 156%. I'm sure that's more than 156%. Probably reading that wrong. Yeah, anyway, yeah, I'm reading that wrong for sure. Um, but yeah, so that's GBP USD. It, like I said, if it goes bullish, then I'll look for continuation, go up with it, just because it can be very aggressive. But I will be looking for a nice clear pullback. The pullback could take days to form, you know, could get very corrective on the way down, which makes a lot of sense because we are in the ultimate bullish trend upwards. So you want to get involved in them corrective moves, but you want to make sure you strategically place yourself like in these areas, you know, sort of these areas here, this area here, this area here. This wasn't the easiest, but there was an area here, you know. These are the sort of areas you want to place yourself in on a trend, and I think focus on those areas and you'll get a lot more better results. So it's basically what I'm going to do is just, you know, focus on those areas where you can tap in and then create that continuation, and I'll be in it for a much better um, much better experience as well. So yeah, the next one's GA. Yeah, I don't have 6 on for watch list. I might opt in for something else after I do a midweek review, and then kind of have it in here, maybe move one of these up. But at the moment, I think I was kind of just happy with 5, and then obviously you can see I had a little bit of fun with it. I had all the yen pairs there. So GBP Aussie. GBP Aussie is actually quite nice. I really, really, really do like how we've basically hit this inflection point. Um, well, we'll call it the override because it is. Um, and then we basically tapped into the override, pushed down, created something a little bit larger. But now we're creating this middle section, which it's a correction into a correction. So we kind of just corrected down. Now we corrected back up. We might tap into this, push back down, break the 90% rule, come back in here, create something a little bit more flat, and then get in for the long. And then what we'll see on the high time frame is we had a larger flag in here, which is not so clear to see in there, but we had a larger flag here, push down, push up, push back down, and then we went, and that would be more than enough to set the bar for GA. So that's kind of just simple for GA, kind of getting a little bit more inside it. You can see that we had nice little middle sections where we have a 1, 2, 3. We have an inflection point up there as well. So for that pure reason, I just kind of, you know, looking for the spike up. I'm not going to take a risk entry. 1, 2, 3. It's not my traditional sort of angle as well, but sorry, not my traditional sort of middle section, but it's more than enough. We have a little hook point as well that we can be looking at. So we have the 1, 2, 3 taps into the inflection point. So maybe M star a little bit, comes back down, flag breaks the mass psychology, whatnot. And then, you know, that's it really. We're back in the game. So then we get in for the short. And then when we get in the short, we might potentially be able to get an AFT entry. I'm not 100% sure yet, but we'll have to wait and see. And then, you know, to that low, even with 54 pips, that's crazy. Let's say that you bang the AFT and then you get the 10 pip. Let's call it, yeah, let's just say 10 for the sake of it, 11, you know, 56 to the bottom there. the probability of this actually playing out is quite high if this does commit. So it's a high probability trade. So I'm really happy to keep this one on board. This is going to be one of my golden pairs for next week. But yeah, we'll see how. And the last one on my watch list is Euro GBP. Now I'm very neutral on this one. The higher time frame kind of paints the picture of why I'm neutral. As you can see, it's aggressively sort of correctively moving like this. I think I'm not so much interested in kind of just getting involved in a buy or a short. I'm just more interested to see if there's structure to support the current trend. We are moving in this corrective channel. So for that reason, I think, we can just pretty much maybe create a little bit more and just sell off. It's very much possible that, if we break this, we can just start selling aggressively to that low, which is not a bad sort of move for this strong push, this correction, and then continuation. However, the only other thing that could break this is because this is a corrective squeeze to this override and we had a near miss, are we filling the near miss to aggressively push back up, create a flag, and then start pushing back up? That's the only other thing. So have to stay neutral in this area. However, I would be very much to be inclined to this got a bit messed up, but basically this pushes up, pushes back down, taps into a flag, and then we go. That's basically what I would be more inclined to see. So do we create something like this, push back up, create down here, flag, and then we go down? And then, by the time we start thinking about, oh, this corrective channel, we're still in the channel and we're way more than protected, because with these channels is once you've kind of established that this is it, anywhere that you're getting priced in, for example, here, the only time you can get taken out if price goes above here and taps into that channel. So you're kind of protected with this wall. It's the way I see it. So that's something that is quite nice. Just have to wait and see, really. But it's more about protection for me. Where can I get placed in to get protected? That's the best place, because then if I was to squeeze in a stop loss, for example, I could look at it two ways. I could either get placed in with the stop loss here, and then even with a, let's say, 18 pip stop loss, I would feel, or 16, maybe even 15 to squeeze it. 15, I'd still feel very much protected at that point. So a risk entry over there wouldn't be too bad. At that point there, I would probably say risk entry would be quite a good position. However, taking that AFT position as well is quite good if it presents itself. But we'd look for more aggression from that point anyway, so it may not present itself early on. But then, yeah, then you've got that position as well. So they won't be much different. There'll be about a 5 pip discrepancy there, but even so, I think Euro GBP will be solid if it does commit for the sell. If it goes to the buy, perhaps maybe that would be a mistrade and we'll wait for later commitment, large or something over here, and then kind of go with it. But we'll have to wait and see how it develops. Nice. Okay, so now we have the wildcards. Funnily enough, I've put all yen pairs this week. I thought, yen pairs are doing pretty well. There's definitely a lot of potential here for some capital to be made. I definitely would want to get interested and get placed in the market. So I'm not going to take a trade on all of them, absolutely not. But I am interested to see if I am going to get placed in the market, which ones can I take advantage of. So um, they're all definitely moving quite aggressively at the moment. We have a couple 1-2-3s leading up to it as well. We've tapped into these sort of zones where we had an override and now we've just kind of pushed down aggressively. We've broken 90% rules. So, for those reasons, I think, yen pairs are definitely going to have so much solid entries on it. If I'm going to be trading 6 different watch lists, what if 3 different solid yen pairs shape up at the same time? Not same time, but different occasions. I could still get involved on them and still capitalize. So I don't want to just kind of not take pairs or take trades because, for example, they're all yen pairs, for example. Like if a trade shapes up, a trade shapes up. That's as simple as it gets, really. So at the end of it, I'm in it to make a percentage. I'm not in it to kind of second guess myself and tell myself, no, I'm not going to take 2 trades because I'm already in a yen pair. So why would I get into another yen? Like, it just doesn't make sense. One yen pair could shape up better than the other. Plus, right now, what I'm seeing is, for example, on euro yen, this could happen 2 ways. This is one I'm a little bit neutral on. So we have this 1-2-3 trend, right? 1-2-3, which Okay, we've tapped into this. However, when we started to decline from it, um, we declined correctively. Now that kind of convinces me that are we going to have to evolve this? And if we do evolve this, how am I evolving this? Now it could work two ways. This could turn into an expanding, bear in mind, right? Um, very much could turn into an expanding, or that what else I could see is that this could get evolved like this, and then we see it now that this is now a middle section for us to maybe tap into that point or to go up higher. So, but I'll keep it as it is for now, as this, and then we've basically tapped in with a 1, 2, 3 here, moved down very correctively, which is very nice. We have this very corrective channel. And we're basically at the bottom. We broke out, but we pushed back in. Now, is this the entry where we push up, push down, and push back up? Oops, push down, push up, push down, push up, and then we create an AFT entry and we go for the buy, right? That's very much possible. It's very, very much possible that this could be a solid trade. We have some sort of structure in here as well. I wouldn't get this low anyway for any other reason, but looking at this now, this could be more than enough for us to push up, push down, push back up, create a flag, let's go. The probability is high. The percentage is also very good. And then we could just continue in this channel. I think Euro yen could be a strong buy, really and truly, compared to the other yen pairs. But I'll have to wait and see. If we create something a little bit larger, like a flag here, 1, 2, 3, then I could look in for the short, maybe a little entry in there somewhere, the flag. Or some people might opt in for the risk entry. Definitely, there's going to be opportunity. I mean, we're trading on the low, which is not always the best place, but what low is it? It's just an inflection point. It's no way of major significance. Then if I go to the daily, and then you ask yourself, how did we break this? Well, yes, it was corrective, but we broke it with an impulse. So, because we broke it with an impulse, technically we are in that impulsive phase where now we can just sell off. And if we do continue to sell off, that 90% rule is our target. And then keeping it aligned with the other yen pairs, we'll see how they go. So then we have USD yen. So USD yen is also one that I think is very much prime. I think what I do like about USD yen is that we've had this strong decline, correction, and now continuation. And I think with the continuation, if we just take this point here to this point here, and we look at it, there's more than enough room for this to continue impulsing, moving aggressively. However, we should see opportunity. Now, the odds are this is just going to continue to sell, and I won't get this. That's very much possible. However, if I do get this, then I'll be able to get involved. That's the only fine line difference. So I think with how it's selling off and it's very aggressive, especially with where the DXY is right now, we could just sell off really and truly, because the DXY is not going to want to stall here or start to pull back up. Really, it's going to just want to sell off. So USD yen, I think I'm going to see the same thing. I think even so that this is really nice, I don't think this is really going to play out. I think we're just going to drop off, and that's basically what we're going to have to deal with. So when it does drop off, then I'll have to reevaluate, probably wait for something a little bit more larger. Hopefully we, like the DXY, we don't create this left shoulder where we come up all the way up here before we go down. That's going to take some some time to develop, but definitely keep that in mind. That would also keep us in line with a few other forecasts. So that's definitely a strong possibility. But yeah, for now, obviously the strong sell. That's why I've left it as a wild card. Cool. GBP yen. GBP yen is sick, actually. I'm not going to lie. GBP yen is prime as well. I do like the fact that we've got this inflection point as well, like we've seen across a lot of yen pairs. We tapped into it, but the only difference is we've basically moved very correctively across the board. But with this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 sort of vibe, we've only tapped in twice, so we're coming down here. If we do push through this, we break the override, the 1, 2, 3 over here would be nice. And I think with how price is moving in this sort of corrective way. We could see this a little drop off, small little correction, and then slightly corrects over here, pushes down, breaks this a little bit, and then pushes back up. And I think that's the gameplay that I'm looking for. So I'm not interested in price coming all the way back up here. I'm interested in how price gets down here. So what I want to see now is two things. Do we create any sort of structure to accumulate a little bit more price? Because I think this is accumulating the price here. So there's an entry over here, not the cleanest, but there was an entry over here, and not the easiest to probably get involved in. But I think for some people maybe they would have been able. I don't think that is. Yeah, I mean, it's a near miss, and then we had another near miss over here. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think, just got to wait it out. But this does look, if I get on the 15-minute chart, something pops out. I think I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this, and then I'm thinking, okay, cool. Is this going to be a very corrective middle section here? And then we come down here, we bounce back up here, and then we tap in like that. And then we have a little inflection point over here. Is that it? Possibly. I mean, that would be nice, Then you look at it, it looks messy, but there's structure in there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. The other one is obviously we have this point here where we've clearly tapped into it and then rejected. So if I take that, we can see it here. So we literally came all the way back up. We tapped into this, we rejected. Are we going to come back up? We're going to do that and then do this. And then we look at it and we're like, okay, cool. So we have a flag. Nice, clear and simple. And that would be more than enough to take it to the short. So a few things could happen, but GJ is definitely looking nice to have on board. So I think GJ needs a little bit of time to develop, but when it's fully developed, its cards, and it's going to be nice and clear, there'll be a nice entry on the table. So, I think more so I'll probably leave this on the forecast as the most probable one to look at as that zone, and then just wait for price to get there and then see what happens. Obviously, bearing in mind, we could potentially see something larger. It's very much possible, but not probable. I think just look for something like that. The next one I'm looking at is Kajen. Kajen, I'm still looking for that larger flag as well. I think, these lines have definitely got messed up a little bit, but let's just look at it like this. I'm looking for something a little bit larger, push to the low, in line with the higher time frame. So we're in that impulsive phase. I'm looking for some smaller structures, larger flags in the grand scheme of things, but smaller structures in terms of the higher time picture, because we could be, trading all the way down here at some point, which is very much possible. So, yeah, I think looking for structures in here is not a bad thing. And then I think maybe something larger will come soon, and then we'll take it. But this could just impulse aggressively, like we've seen previously. It could just rapidly move down before it goes up. So bear in mind, Kajen is very, very, very high probability. It's rapidly moving right now. So looking at this particular pair, I think is prime. It would be quite reckless for me not to have this on watch. So yeah. Aussie yen's somewhat the same as CAD yen, really. But we the only difference is we have these near misses, this override to tap into, so that could cause some volatility, maybe a larger pattern. But I'm definitely looking at maybe a larger flag forming just above here. Take a short, be more than enough room to manage, and then if it just impulses through, that would be great, because then we'll get some more aggression to the downside. Bearing in mind we do have some Aussie news next week. We have interest rates from RBA, we have GDP growth rates, and we have some bulletins and some trade, balance of trade. So just some volatility to be aware of. That's going to be throughout Monday to Thursday, Monday to Wednesday. So there could be some volatility to piggyback off as well. But we just have to bear in mind that this can definitely turn around as well. So just like we saw with Euro, Japanese yen, we could see something similar in the sense that we might just push down and then push back up. So bear that in mind, that Aussie yen is tapping into these override and near miss zones. And then I've got Swiss yen. So Swiss yen is prime as well. We've got this 1, 2, 3 leading up to here. I'm not so convinced of it because of the aggression we're moving in. If I go to the higher time frame as well, even though that this technically is corrective, there is some structure in it as well. But it is just a corrective squeeze. But we've impulsed and moved with a rule of three of an impulsive approach. And for that reason alone, I'm not going to opt in for any sort of entry here because we could just create something a little bit more in sell off. And then this is just kind of like, well, you know, it's nothing. This could be something a lot larger. So I would be very patient with this to see a strong push down, push back up, a flag, and then we go for the long if we're going to go for the long. But it's possible with in line with a lot of the other yen pairs that this could sell off. So we might see a sell, might see a larger pattern form here, and then we might just continue. So keep that in mind as well. So be a little bit more neutral with Swiss yen, but it needs a few days to develop. But I think once it's developed, it's going to really tell us which way it's going. So it's one of them ones where you just need to be extra patient. But yeah, we might even be down here by next week. It could just aggressively sell off. So that's one that I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on as well. Even though right now it doesn't look like it's ready, it could surprise you and everything else. So these are the ones that I opted in to filter out. So I had GBP New Zealand dollar. GBP New Zealand dollar is nice. It's definitely potentially creating like a flag to go to the low. So if we look at the higher time frame, we've basically moved in strong impulse correction and possibly continuation to the low. I think this is a very good area to enter in the market as well. So we could potentially be squeezing in here, or we could come back up here before we go down. So I think it needs a few more days to develop. That's the only reason I didn't want to really put it in there as well. But this could definitely be ready by midweek, and then we could be in the sell. Just creates a little bit of structure in there, and then pushes down, creates a flag, and let's go. And then this could be running all the way down here at some point, or we could see some aggressively bull momentum push back up here, and then create a flag and go down. That's basically the play I would want to be taking. So that's why I kind of left it off because it'll probably be ready by next week or probably Thursday, Friday, and then by the run starts, I can probably get involved a little bit late, but yeah. GBP Swiss. So GBP Swiss as well. It's just this isn't a squeeze, so a very corrective squeeze. There's a middle section in there as well. Impulse correction continuation. We are in impulsive phase now to make that final push up. But I think just looking at other pairs, this is just one that I just didn't really want to have on board. I think if it does reject and start pushing down and selling off, once that rule has been broken in that squeeze, then I could potentially look for something, but it's not the sort of angle or trade I want to get involved in. GBP CAD, similar situation as well. It's funny, got a lot of GBP and Euro pairs there. Just hitting into an inflection point, but this is hell of aggressive in terms of a bullish momentum. I think buys are more interesting than sells at the moment, and this little flag could just be a so strong push off. So I'm not bothered. I'm honestly not going to entertain GBP CAD. Euro Aussie, it's a mistrade for me from previous. If this sells off aggressively and comes back down here and I see it, then perhaps maybe I will take this and put this on watch and then just monitor in this section here because this could be a prime trade for me. So it's one that I'm not going to keep on, but if it does tap in here and sets off one of my alerts, then at that point there I will turn around and be like, hey, hang on a second, this is where I want to be getting involved in this particular market. So that's Euro Aussie. Euro USD, I think Euro USD is now getting that bullish momentum that it needed, and it's going to be pushing up higher. Unfortunately, I was looking for the trade off the buy down here. We did tap into a mini section over there before we pushed off, which is completely fine. If we do create some sort of ascending channel, let's just say that we pull it in like this, and then price does reject and comes back down here, then I'll look to get into the buy later. So I'm more than happy to leave that one off and miss out on that sell to potentially get into the buy for later. Euro New Zealand dollar. I think Euro New Zealand dollar as well is a really nice pair for a short. Just like the yen pairs that I had on board, I'd potentially be looking for that continuation. We don't seem to get a lot of 1, 2, 3 touches, or if we do, they're not the cleanest. So I think, perhaps maybe this will sell off a little bit and then come up a little bit, tap into a 1, 2, an override zone or something, and then kind of go, because I don't really tend to see, this really creating that traditional 1, 2 comes back down 3, and then we get the sell. It's just a 1, 2 sort of pair. So for that reason, I probably will end up missing a trade on this one because I'll be looking for that 1, 2, 3 across so many pairs. I would have to look into them override zones and really be sharp. So um, yeah, it's really nice. It's looking good. That's basically the ones that I filtered out, and then the ones that I kind of think are not yet ready and going to happen weeks ahead. It's more so, so Aussie US dollar. It needs strong bullish momentum, push up, push back down on the flag. So that's just an inflection point. This is also it was an inflection point. We came in with structure 1, 2, 3. I just kind of opted out. It's just way too messy for me. It's not really the sort of price action I'm looking for. We did have a beginning of a sell-off. If we were down here creating a correction right now, then I would entertain that for the sell. But unfortunately, it's not selling off from any major point of interest to me. So it's not interesting. CAD Swiss is looking very corrective, not something I would want to entertain for a buy at the moment. I'd look for a strong impulse in the higher time frame, daily, weekly, and then look for a continuation flag to go higher. Aussie Swiss. Aussie Swiss is fucking sick, but it's so corrective. I don't want to touch it. Middle section is messy as hell. Strong push up. We have a potential 1, 2, 3 leading into the override 2. We might tap into the override 1 and sell off inflection point over here, which is call it override 2, and then that's override 3. But yeah, those are pretty much 3 points I'd look at. But I want to see the 1, 2, 3 completion, which I think is a week away or 2 weeks away now. So if we can get some strong bullish momentum and keep moving up, then I'll be interested to just kind of see and evaluate this pair. Aussie New Zealand, did I just look at that? No, I didn't. Aussie New Zealand, looking for just simple continuation. It's a very clean, nice pair, honestly. Going back and looking at this, I love these runs. I think this might be one I might just opt into next week because but this usually take about 2 weeks or a week and a day, 2 weeks to create this flag. So if this starts to materialize, then I'll definitely keep that on watch because I can capitalize on that very nicely, honestly. I wish I kind of saw this a bit earlier, but I think when it was probably around about here, it was a bit too messy. That one I could have probably seen it if I looked at it properly. Yeah, it's just there was so many other things my focus got shifted on. And that's something I'm going to work on is making sure I can equally distribute my focus across pairs and not just get fixated and looking at what may or may not be looking really good. But at the moment, I'm making some good profit, good percentage. But there's always room for improvement. New Zealand yen, just not yet ready. I'm looking for this larger picture, 1, 2, 3. See what happens when we get up there. It's probably going to be correctively squeeze, and then sell off. So I think it's a week away, 2 weeks away maybe. UK 100. Now this is one that I thought I really wanted to put on board because, what I'm seeing here is sort of, let's call that the override, right? And we've tapped into the override. We've had a strong push down now. Clearly see it on the 4-hour. And now we're creating some sort of correction over here to potentially be forming as that. Only thing is when I'm looking at other indices at the moment, they're just not yet ready. And I usually tend to see them all selling off together. I just don't want to get involved here for this to just correct up against me and then kind of go down. I want to see some commitment first and then get involved later. So I'll leave that one off for a week, see how it develops, come back next week. At least a couple more daily candles will be developed. And then, who knows, we might be down here somewhere. And then, then I can be like, oh, okay, this could be interesting. Maybe I could be looking for the buy, I could be looking for the short. So we'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, happy to stay out. And that's basically it, really. There wasn't really much else that I was looking at. I think, commodities as well. Crude oil was looking nice. Crude oil, I think definitely we've broken this line, this trend here, and we're pushing up. So crude oil could be one to actually look for a nice buy if we can get a nice structure in there, maybe a push up and a push back down, tap in there. But I think just for the simple fact that I just didn't really feel like I wanted to have crude oil on. I didn't take crude oil, so I left it. Natural gas has broken this impulsively. Don't actually know what to really make of this because natural gas is definitely one pair that is very good to short. Just it's not one that I've got enough experience on, in my opinion. Probably go back now and just get some more back testing in there. But I would look for something more so like this, scoops up, comes back down, and then we get that corrective push up, and then boom, sell. Silver. Silver's moving into the inflection point, but now because it's moved so aggressively, I think we're coming into this trend line 1, 2, 3. When we tap into that with this, perhaps maybe I'll look for a short over here, and that's it really. Silver's pretty simple. Gold is going for that strong bull run. Honestly, I think gold is gonna make that run up here now with the DXY the way it is. If the DXY sells off aggressively, boy, gold is going to be all the way up here, creating new highs. And I think that's very much possible. I think it could get very corrective as well in these areas, but there was definitely good opportunities down here for the buy. Triple bottom sort of vibes, and then I'm looking for that double bottom before we go up for the buy. So double bottoms is what I kind of look for. Double tops, double bottoms, whatnot. So yeah, gold is not on watch for me this week. Palladium, I think palladium as well, just like natural gas, I'll be looking for that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Simple as that. And then indices, not much to report really. 1, 2, 3, larger time structure there. US 30, same situation. It was looking at a nice week. It was looking really good. There were some entries in there as well. We got to that third touch. We had that push down. We created this steep flag, but it's a very common, and I see them quite a lot on US 30. And then we had a small push down, corrected, and then we had a strong push off NFP, non-farm payrolls, and then we pulled back up. So yeah, it is what it is. US 30, US 100, Germany 40. A lot of people are thinking of this as a short, but I think because we're coming off the back of this very aggressive buy, I don't want to be shorting this. Really and truly, I don't want to short this aggressive movement because the Germany 30 doesn't usually tend to have aggressive movement like this. We're moving up so aggressively right now that has something majorly significant happened in order for us to go in this strong bullish phase? Well, yeah, of course. We could be looking at this. This could genuinely be a big move right now. So I don't know, really. I haven't really even analyzed Germany Faye for a long time. I mean, it's a pair I really, really do enjoy, analyzing and trading, and I've made a significantly large amount of losses and wins on this pair. But being very honest with you, I'm very much interested to see how this plays out because honestly, it's looking good. It's looking very good, and it's funny because it paints a lot of history for me. Spent a lot of time analyzing and trading this in live market conditions, so I can resonate a lot with these prices, especially when you get granular and you go to the daily. It's like, yeah, I remember this trade, this scoop, this drop, this channel here, and especially going through my journey through trading as well and learning and what I was forecasting and looking at, these lows breaking, these lows breaking, and then coming back up, and then just so many different ways of trading as well. It's just one of them pairs that speaks to me in many ways from experience. And then UK 100, that's the one I've got for next week. Wait for it to develop. NAS 100. NAS 100 is actually looking like it could go prolong. I think we moved impulse correction and now we're in that continuation phase. So this is the impulse, creating a little bit of a correction here, but we're in the impulsive phase ultimately, and NAS 100 could shoot. Yeah, and the rest of them are just history, really. Not really looking for much. Euro 50 could sell off, which could be in line with a few other things, but right now it's looking a bit more aggressive than you'd want. It's a little bit corrective, but it's impulsive ultimately. And yeah, so I'm not really going to go through much else. I don't think there's much really else to report. But I think, just keeping in mind that, there's a lot of things happening in the market at the moment, and money's going to be shifting around from the US pairs and the yen pairs. So it's very interesting to have those on at the moment. I was contemplating having a few more US pairs just because of how the DXY is, and we could see that significant sell off. But I think when I came to it in the end, I realized that, I'm not going to entertain so many pairs anyway. So I'll take the ones that I really like, the ones that I want to get involved in, and then see how it goes. Perhaps maybe even next week I might not take any trades, we've just got to wait and see how it goes. I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I built this watch list, it wasn't the easiest as well. I had to really filter and refine it. It took me 3 days. Usually I'm getting through it in about 2 days now, but this one took me about 3 days. So yeah, have a good week and have a good week next week. So today's Sunday, yeah. So Monday tomorrow, and we'll see how the market shape up. I think first thing I'll be looking at is EJ. Um, yeah, EJ in the morning, market open. I think this Australian session, Asian session could go, and then USD CAD Asian session. Hopefully, we don't see no major gapping in the market. We had that last week, and it was just not well. We didn't have gapping, but we had major volatility as the market opened. So that's something I ideally don't want to be seeing on a Monday morning. But it is what it is. I mean, if we go back to Monday here, so yeah, Monday morning and spikes up and then comes back down, and it is what it is. There's opportunity there as well. But yeah, abundance of opportunity. We've created left shoulder, right shoulder as well if we cancel out this sort of channel, and we could be selling off really nicely. So it'll be good to see. Got some nice position in there.